Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, where I'm extra excited because it's been a while since I've been able to introduce the Protoss player in the blue. He's been biding his time, bolstering his defenses. Now he's ready to stand tall yet again. The German Protoss, D. Mauer. Showtime, the wall. But he's up against probably the most likely opponent to try to circumvent his defenses. It's the fastest Zerg in the world, the Italian Stallion. It's Reynor, a best of 5 Protoss versus Zerg, with two intensely clashing styles of play in this matchup that I think has gotten a lot more interesting since the newest balance patch. It's evened out somewhat. I think overall, a defensive Protoss can find maybe a bit more success with the nerf to the Lurkers and the Banelings, but that doesn't mean Reynor's not going to find options and opportunities, just like I'm not going to miss an opportunity to beg you for likes and subscribes. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,195 likes on this video, on this cast, on this series, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better, as I'm very excited for this intense clash of styles, especially, as I mentioned, for Showtime. It's been a while. He hasn't been playing, or at least I missed it if he has. He hasn't been playing in too many of the weekly tournaments. Clearly, whatever preparation he's put in has paid off, making it this far in the ESL SC2 Masters European Regional Playoffs. Try to fit that in the clickbait title. Jimmy! There's no limit when it comes to characters in StarCraft 2, but there is a limit in the title, so we'll see what we boil it down to. Oracle is the choice. Not a surprising one. Still the staple of early game Protoss versus Zerg. You got scouting. You have potential damage to the drones. Stasis Ward has actually one of my favorite kind of utility buffs was Stasis Ward now has 7 vision range, as opposed to 4, as it had before. Which is still not quite as much as a pylon, which I believe is 9, but it gives it a lot more opportunity to not just potentially freeze units, but give some extra scouting information. So we see more and more Oracle usage as the Treacles are on... Nope. The Tri-Oracle, the Triumvirate, is on the way. And 3 Oracles usually works out to be the right number. Have 1 back at home, defend against the Zerglings, a couple to burn through the probes. Nope. Well, I guess technically works for probes as well, but drones... Right, get it together, Winter. Get it. +1 melee on the way, Robo behind, as covering with the Adepts. Yeah, Showtime on the edge of the creep, forces the Zerglings out, says, I probably won't, but what if I did? Which is most of the Adepts micro. In a nutshell there. But just forcing out a few more Zerglings and keeping Reynor at bay while getting a little bit of scouting input. You get in, see how many drones there are, maybe. Meanwhile, though, the Robo. Okay, so what's the Robo about? There is no Twilight. Very important to note. Without a Twilight Council, is he actually just going to go Colossi? Because right now, Reynor is going for +1 melee attack. Very importantly, +2 melee attack used to allow Banelings to one-shot probes. With the newest patch, not so much. They don't benefit with extra bonus damage against light, aka workers, from upgrades. They still get more damage, but just not enough to kill those probes or drones. Immortals and sentries potentially. A stasis. Wait, does that actually block the base? Ooh. That's a cheeky move there. He's got Adepts to the north, and he's got a stasis on the south. Showtime covering all Reynor's bases in the most literal sense. As Reynor, he's at 72 drones, but his lair is quite late. There's a Robo Bay on the way. And Queens have had enough of this. He actually killed the drone there, too. 6 drones in the last minute or so. Auspicious start for the German Protoss. About as good as it's gonna get. At least without Reynor. Well, was it worth it? He killed a bunch of Lings, but I would say the Adepts being alive is probably a bit more favorable. Either way, Not a huge deal, as adepts just don't really fulfill much of a role in the later game. They don't have enough range to keep them away from the melee, and they're not strong enough in melee to fight heads up against the Lings and Banes. An Immortal Sentry. It's been a while since we've seen this sort of unit composition. At least in the early game. I'm reminded of Parting Soul Train, though that was more of a 2-base all-in into Rage Quit style. Spire is on the way. A Phoenix and Disruptor. So it's gonna be the heavy tech. It's essentially Mech Protoss. Adding in, yeah, ooh, beautiful force fields. He says, well, you might have gotten in, but I would rather you didn't get out. He's just waiting. Sir, well, eventually the force fields run out. And at the natural, enough for a recall, but he's got it walled off. Fire the shot and cancel the battery. Do it. Do it, Showtime. I was excited for that opportunity. Reynor just poking and prodding the Zerglings coming in. As I expected, Reynor very, very active on the map with the Zerglings. Even though it's not like he's cutting much into his economy at all. Showtime is somewhat struggling to get his 4th base and really get much more done. There is no infestation bit, but Hydra's on the way. Ooh, almost picks off one of the Oracles, but is able to retreat in time. The Oracle's almost entirely out of energy. That 4th base is not done. That means no shield battery overcharge. And, in fact, no shield batteries at all. Is Reynor trying to hit this timing? He's setting himself... Oh, my God. The Disruptor, not the end. The Zerglings get in behind. Reynor is setting him up for the knockout punch with the Mutas. It's not entirely a mistake to have 2,300. Yeah, there it is. 10 Mutas in production. Yes, Showtime got a Phoenix. But just the one. And while he's... Oh, okay, just the 2... While he's scouring the map for overlords here, I don't think this is anticipating Mutas so much as just using the Stargate. Banelings in the main. He's gonna get blindsided by the Mutas. And you really need to have 3 or 4 Phoenixes to drive them back. Okay, alright, so the Zealots, Baneling sliced up. If you don't have at least, no more than 2 would be great. And in the base, this is just not enough to realistically deal with the Mutas, even if technically they can kite them across the entire map. The Mutas can kill so many probes. Showtime, the main weakness of going Robo is your vulnerability to the Mutalisks. Not that they're a particularly great fighting unit, but they can dictate the pace of the game. And Showtime has set up quite a bastion of defense. Stasis, Archons, cannons, but nothing to deal with the Mutalisks. The Phoenixes are on the other side of the map. I think he just recalled them back, but he's already lost 11 probes. It's disastrous. The most obvious kind of the Zerglings. It's all coming apart already. Reynor. The Mutas throwing Showtime entirely off. The Archons try to hold the line. Immortals wondering where they can even go. The Oracles are out in front of everything. Immortals abandoned, trying to fall back to the stasis. It will hit. The Mutas are in the main, though. Outright BD kills another Phoenix. 33 probes. And Showtime gets the rug taken out from under him. Oh, it's just way too much. The Mutas for Reynor. They are a bit of a risky call if they get scouted. That's a big investment in something that needs surprise to pay off. But he masked it perfect. I think going for the Hydras convinced Showtime that it wasn't going to be Mutas. He risked the Lisks. No, this sentence is not going to end well, mostly because I can't enunciate it, but the Hydra is almost certainly giving Showtime the wrong impression of where Reynor was going with it. And that means he gets away with a bit of a cheeky win in game number 1. Jimmy, please. Game 2, Golden Aura. That's a rough one. I don't think... And that is part of the reason why you'll usually see the Blink and +1 as well. It's a bit of a narrow road for a lot of Protoss builds. Which Hero has shown us. The Blink and +1 is not just because Stalkers can kind of deal with Roaches and Zerglings. It's to give you some extra built-in anti-air. Obviously, the best option are the Phoenixes against the Mutas, but they are a costly one as well. It's a shame, as I really liked where Showtime was going with it, but Reynor just bamboozled them. Oh, game 2. We'll see if Showtime can shake that one off. Wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see a Stargate in however many games we have in this series. There it is. Reynor was allowed, or he got his hatch out so quick. The 16, the extractor trick hatch, has become quite popular. Nobody likes getting their base blocked. If you don't send a probe out at the very beginning of the game, likely you won't get there in time to block the hatch. The tug of war between being able to take your natchery or not does continue. Stargate on the way. Metabolic boost, aka Zergling speed, but when you say metabolic boost, it makes you sound real fancy and smart. Reynor, a lot of the Zerg early game is minimizing damage. The queens are great at that. They're not great at killing anything in particular, but making it so uncomfortable for oracles or adepts to stick around that eventually they're either driven away or taken out. It is not uncommon to see 5, 6, 7 drone kills with the Zerg still kind of bouncing back from it. Now, some might argue it'd be better to build like a second spore crawler or some more Zerglings, but it usually is easier to just replace the drones than it is to overbuild defenses and not need them. Because for every extra drone you get away with, it pays off down the line. Occasionally we'll see games where oracles come in or adepts find a good angle and get a little too much damage done, and that starts to spiral out of control. But I doubt Reynor has too many of those games. It's going to be roaches this time. Not opting for the +1 melee, instead reaching for the roach one. Adept's shading back, so careful. Doesn't want to risk. There could be Zerglings out there. Alright, he doesn't know for sure yet. There's the Forge. Now, will it be the Twilight? There it is. Back to basics here. Now, the disparity would be if it's not blank. Alright, so the +1 and the blank. +1 very helpful for the Stalkers, especially against Roaches and Ravagers, but just in general. Those weapon upgrades are usually important for Protoss, as all their units... weapon upgrades usually scale with the amount of damage a unit does, and a lot of Protoss units, like the Stalker and the Zealot, can get some extra benefit. I'm not sure about this actually. But a lot of them do 2 attacks as well, which each benefit. Whoa! Oracle, straying a little too close. Of all the ones to stay closer to the creep, that's an odd choice. Joining up to protect the adepts here. Blink and +1, stock, standard, textbook, Protoss versus Zerg. Right up against Reynor's, well, middle of the road sort of Roach Zergling play. It's gonna be a full-on macro game this time around. Not that last game wasn't, but Showtime taking a different path and getting punished for it. The Zerglings looking for the adepts. Wait, no, not looking for the adepts. Maybe should have been looking for the adepts, but instead, yeah, the oracles are waiting for an opportunity to help out. Provide some covering lasers. Ooh, gonna try to burn through the drones. Juggles back. Ah! Well, loses one. Overlord wanders in. Gonna see, well, everything relevant here. Seeing the Twilight, the Forge, a Chrono Boost is going to tell Reynor everything he needs to know. And his reaction is building a dozen more drones or so. He's gonna be near 80. which is a perfectly healthy mid-game economy to do pretty much whatever you want on lair tech. Not like Showtime slouching himself, getting a 4th base. Templar Archives. Templar Archives. Templar Archives. Is he gonna go Storm? Which is the highest risk, but highest reward. As Storm is difficult to manage and make work, but if you're able to pull it off, even in addition to Colossi, well, one of the benefits is that Colossi are very supply heavy. They're easily countered by Vipers, by Corruptors, and just generally they're fragile creatures. But they are usually more reliable for taking out things like Lings and Banes. Whereas the Templar counter Vipers and can also merge into Archons. It's just in practice sometimes they get a little too far forward and the merging does not complete. But Reynor sitting back, 89 drones. Showtime 83 probes, not to be outdone. This gives me the feeling of these two playing so many times and knowing each other. Like, they just know each other too well that it's not going to happen. Last game, Showtime strayed a little off the path. If he had gotten away with it, maybe he could have turned it on Reynor. But now we're right back on the meta. And that means I don't think of either of these players as needing to all in. Showtime, his specialty is that late game defense and control. Once again, nicknamed the Wall. And not necessarily because of how he builds his defenses, but how he holds them with the partitioning of units and the management of Protoss supply, which sounds to those who don't really understand how much of a Hogwarts experience, a spellcasting menagerie late game Protoss is. But between Storms, Sentries, Oracles, the new Mothership, maybe you got Carriers, Disruptors, Blink Stalkers. There's a wide array of abilities and needs you need to meet. And we'll see how Showtime does in our first exchange here. Groovy Spines and charge done. Hydra range. Charge down goes an Oracle. Trying to get a tag on those units. Will get knocked out. Spire on the way. It looks like Reynor wants to go Broodlords. A bold choice. And okay, well that's a wall. A storm at the back will keep it. More storms. Banelings. Looking for an opportunity to try to split them. It takes a couple ticks. Oh, the Banelings are rolling through, but he blinks in. He sacrifices a few of the Stalkers for the good of the many. A Baneling drop comes in and kills 9 probes as well. But +2 melee isn't what it once was. Wow, the Baneling drops kind of, well, not really speeding, but cruising, I think is the more accurate term. Cruising in there. The Nexus itself taking a lot of damage from the Banelings. He's gonna re-angle. Showtime, gotta be careful of the mineral walk here, but the Stalkers will find the Bane drop. Reynor trying to get it away. He's actually trying to turn this. Nexus, I don't think it was canceled. Unfortunate there for Showtime, but the Storms will hold the door for now. Loads up some more Banelings. And, Stalker's trying to box out. Showtime is still pretty far off a max out, which means he has more to go before he can think about moving out himself. Tries a Zealot counterattack. Reynor easily cleans it up. Hive Tech is on the way. And a Greater Spire is being produced by Reynor here. This ground-based army quite vulnerable to a critical mass of Broodlords. But he has to get there first. The Banelings evaporating, but so are the Archons as they get too close. Hydras pick off another. Reynor waiting. Not going to commit. He's much like last game. I think he's really trying to show the Hydras like they're his end game move. But Showtime is not going to be bamboozled by that. The Corruptors are going to come out. And now is the big question. Does he build Stargates and a Fleet Beacon? Or does he try to just get aggressive and end the game before Broodlords can be a threat? Also, Porque no los dos. Why not potentially both? Well, because Showtime is not maxed out and he doesn't have the money to tech switch and attack at the same time. Reynor, on the other hand, has kind of sat back and has managed to max out with a bang. The Zealots are warped in, but +2 melee cracklings there with adrenal glands are going to be more than a match for him. He's going to need more reinforcements. The cannons are being ripped to shreds. Zerglings even working on the Templar. Down goes the Golden base. So small win there for Showtime. But 8 Broodlords are in production. And a second Spire is on the way. Wow. He's really committing. Fleet Beacon for Showtime. Realizing that, well, he got some work done, but there's probably going to be more to do by the end. A recall brings back a significant portion of the army. Beautiful storms. The Banelings thinned out. Lurker Den on the way as the late game tech starts to come online. The Broodlords on the newest patch got a movement speed buff, so they can kind of float around pretty quickly. But Broodlings have significantly less HP, from 30 to 20, which makes them much easier to clear out. Usually an Archon shot will do it. Even I think an upgraded Stalker, but I'm not sure about that one. But it makes it significantly easier to clear out the actual Broodlings. But the Broodlords are more likely to be in position to do that impact damage of the initial strike. So many Broodlings. Overseer. He doesn't have a Nidus, right? This Overseer wants to see that Fleet Beacon. He wants to know, are you making the switch? We're going to the Reynor cam here. He's got the Lurker Den on the way, getting upgrades. Overseer's just hanging out in the main. At some point, he'll look at it. And then how will he... Well, he's getting Lurker upgrades. He's already getting more Lurkers. He knows where this is going. Yep. Okay. All right. He knows. The relevant information is gained. And now, well, Showtime is maxed out. Sir? Well, that's just rude. The Nexus blocking the hatchery. And Reynor has a less and less mobile army as time goes on. His army is not able... I mean, besides the Zerglings, obviously. But you can't risk abandoning your Broodlords and your Lurkers without potentially getting caught in the middle of the map. For now, it seems he's confident enough. Showtime has 2 armies, both incredibly expensive. Broodlords will get 2 of the Templar, looking for a 3rd. It's a risky business for Showtime to be splitting his army like this. But maybe the only way to be able to defend both sides of the map. Tempests are on the way. The direct counter to Broodlords. Doing extra damage against massive. Which Broodlords, they cut quite a figure. Well, the Blinkstalkers are coming in. The Lurker's getting caught as Showtime undercuts their position at the southern base. Broodlords and Lurkers sieging to the north. I don't think there's any detection here. Are there any observers? There are, but Showtime can't see the Lurkers, so he's not able to get too much further. The Queens are joining up with the Broodlords here. The Tempests starting to chip away, and there's no real anti-air. So the Tempest should be able to drive the Broodlords all the way back, and Showtime is holding the line. He's defended, and the Broodlords are going to be pin-cushioned. Well, not really pin-cushioned. Kind of ripped up, disintegrated, more accurately. The last Broodlord. It looks like Showtime has successfully ended feudalism, as the Queens and the Lords are taken down, and now we'll be moving forward. Some of his Immortals were picked off, unfortunately. More Lurkers on the way for Reynor, but Showtime's army is looking incredibly scary right now. For Reynor, who really... Lurkers are not incredible against Skytoss. You still need something to take out the Tempest. He does have +2 flyer attack on the way, but there's no real anti-air at the moment. 3 Tempests is not a deadly number, but they can chip away at the Lurkers. Does he have an Oracle? I wouldn't be surprised to see an Oracle rebuilt soon, once he has the supply for it, as he clearly needs some more reliable detection, which is the late-game struggle for Protoss overall. +2 flyer attack. Zerglings looking for an opportunity, but Showtime's starting to lock things down here. How many cannons are on the field? 17. He's adding more and more, spreading them out so banelings aren't as much of a threat, and so his units don't get pinned up against him. +3 shields. And +3 armor. I can't remember the last time I've seen +3 shields, especially before the 20-minute mark. Showtime not neglecting those shield upgrades. I guess it's more effective when there's no EMP. Meanwhile, the Lurkers are chipping their way through. The Tempest's going to take their sweet time dealing with this. They will be able to deal with the Hydras. The Templar, but the Zerglings ripping apart a Nexus. They'll take that out. And Showtime doesn't want to wait. Immortals kind of getting shredded from the south side. Will reposition. Don't really want to come through that choke point into the Lurkers. A bit of an awkward recall right on top of the Lurkers. Hopefully he brought an Observer. He brought 4, which seems a bit excessive, but when you need them. Oh no, but apparently... one of them should have stayed at home. Typical group project. There's no I in Observer. Okay. Well, Showtime still maintains a very strong army. Reynor's bank is about equal here. The Zealots will try to hold the line. The Zerglings are not going to be enough, but more Zerglings slipping in. No defenses here. Showtime kind of running low on probes. He doesn't need 80 of them at this stage of the game, but dropping below 60. Oh my god. Wow. They just claw that building to shreds, I say. 11 more Lurkers on the way as Reynor tries to maintain the tempo advantage. So far, he's successfully done so. Showtime has managed to pause the attacks, but not drive them all the way back. As Reynor keeps managing to refill his supply. And even the Tempests don't seem to be dangerous enough to drive back this many Lurkers. Reynor going to try to take advantage of this. And this is a very important base. This is... right now, Showtime doesn't really have any mining besides this base. And that's going to really hurt his income. The third base is drying up. As is the fourth. The Lurker count is so damn high. Looking very awkward on that high ground. The Oracle is here to help with detection, but... Lurkers just slicing their way through. Reynor methodically eliminating the options. Blinding Cloud drives the Immortals and Archons closer. Even a Phoenix getting in on the action. The Immortals are shredded by the Lurkers. The Archons are able to withstand a bit more punishment, but not too much more as time goes on. The detection is required. The Archons are chasing. Showtime has held the line, but at what cost? The losses are mounting. He's gonna lose the Nexus. He lost almost the entire ground army. He barely has any mining, and he hasn't done much to stop a Reynor. Even a Lurker gonna burrow. There's one last attack here, but all Reynor has to do is hold. He's not maxed out. It's not hopeless. Oh, but it's getting there. Those Vipers with Blinding Cloud able to kind of nudge the fight into the Lurkers, making a huge difference in how effective those Immortals and Archons were. In a bad way, for Showtime, to be clear. Those Hive Tech upgrades are fully kicked in here. No Mothership. That's just mass Archon. Fully operational upgraded Archons. +333. Not that the armor is going to do much, but just in case. He's got 9, 10, going on 11 Archons. I'm sure he would build more if he could. Reynor does really... he's almost maxed out. But his income is a bit thin here. Showtime is rebuilding a Nexus, but the Zerglings are just so strong. It's becoming incredibly difficult to see a situation where Showtime could take this. Yanks and the Tempest on top of everything. Storms on the Hydras, the Fungal, Blinding Cloud Wombo combo. The Archons are trying to spread out, but they're hefty creatures. And with it, Reynor will hold him down and slice him out, bringing us to a quick, well, relatively quick 2-0. A tough match for Showtime. Just going straight up against this one. Reynor never really lost momentum there. I thought maybe with the Tempest, but Lurkers are so dangerous. You look away for a couple seconds, and you might not have anything to look back to. Even when you think you have the army to engage, it's a very technical process. All right, Showtime. It's time to show us what you got. Came up with that one myself. Game 3. Reynor up to a 2-0 lead. And this is what happens when we skip, Jimmy. Now there's a hatchery in this base. Well, the hatchery block is certainly a choice. This is not intended to actually finish, but is the Zerg version of slapping down a pylon. Now, will he do the Evo chamber? Because there's a spot of creep for a split second. I think you tried it, is what happened. There's a spot of creep for a split second that gives you enough creep to build an Evo chamber. Or, I guess, a spawning pool, if you were so inclined. You shouldn't be, but the idea being just something to keep building for a little longer. Though rarely will players, it's very thin timing, and usually only works if they aren't actively blocking it. But a cheeky attempt. Is it worth it? I never know. It's not so common. Like, Dark will do it, but I'm not convinced Dark does anything. I think, like, that's not. I feel like at least 2/3 of what Dark does is intended to mess with his opponent, as opposed to being the ideal top-tier strategy. The other third is also intended to mess with his opponent. So that makes 3/3, which is almost half of his games. 6 Zerglings on the way. It's going to be a Stargate. The drone will voice its discontent with the Protoss existing. Fair enough. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Adept shades in, and the Zealot just waltzes across. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You're too busy watching the drone. Well, 3 drone kills. Quite a surprising take for the most obvious counterattack. Well, the drone's still back here. This drone, not one of the ones killed, unfortunately for Reynor. The Zerglings are on the way across. And, yeah, okay, the verdict is in. It wasn't worth it. Being at 26 drones with a late third against someone who barely was delayed on their Stargate, not in love with it. Especially after those extra kills. Another one on the pile. So Showtime now is slightly delayed in his expansion, but in terms of the builds and where he's going to land along the build progression, he's going to be further ahead than in most other scenarios. Whoa. Okay, well, the Zerglings. I swear, Bill, something is watching us. What do you mean you can't tilt your head up? You see that? I think it's gone. Well, Oracle on the way across, gonna take a look around. And what are you gonna see? Nothing unexpected. Third base, few queens, but Showtime comfortably taking his third, correctly guessing. I don't think it's so much a guess as an educated assessment, but realizing that Reynor is unlikely to try to punish him for it, as that would leave him. Essentially, if Reynor was trying to build dozens of Zerglings right now, he would somehow rely, or he'd be relying on the Oracles not seeing it, which is incredibly improbable at this stage of the game. So, Showtime's able to get his third base safely. He's able to get his Twilight and his Forge with likely +1 for Blink. And honestly, if there was ever a time to try a more aggressive timing, this is it. Try to hit Reynor before he gets a lair, before he gets too many upgrades, before he has enough economy, while he's still really minimizing the amount of units he's building. And in fact, he's going to do a defensive shade here. Waltzes in and then shades out. Nice little dodge by Reynor. Hops into the Spore Crawler. But the Oracles are going to look for an angle, and this Spore Crawler's a little bit out of position. Gets another couple drones. +1 melee's on the way, but very importantly, no lair. No, is there no Roach for him? No Roach for him. Even though he is getting +1 ranged attack. Looks like Reynor wants to do a Hydra timing here. As otherwise, very surprising not to see the Roach one. Meanwhile, Showtime. Blink +1. Adding a shield battery. Slapping down a cannon. He's essentially using the map control he's gained to safely get all his infrastructure up. Instead of having to worry about having all his units at home. Well, this is not ideal. Bit late on the shade. Microing the Oracles. Looking for more drone kills. Finding them. Gets a couple. Cruising on the Adept. Or on the Oracle, rather. Well, both. Zerglings. Try to dart in. Not gonna find much. A lesser Protoss would have gone for the force field, and then the Zerglings would have just run around. The wall of gateways will be slapped down. He's just gonna zone out this base. It's not the be-all, end-all, but it is going to slow down, especially any just Zergling counters. A straight-up gateway wall there. 4 more gates on the way. Blink now completed. Robotics facility, is that the first? No, second robo. It's Colossi. I like it. All right, I've come around heavily to the Colossus style. Not just mass Colossi, but 2 or 3 mixed in order to clear out the Zerglings. Essentially, just get them off the toes of all your Zealots and your Stalkers. Burn them up, and make Hydras exceedingly uncomfortable. Showtime building, pre-building defensive. Sir, please, I have a permit. Sir? Ma'am? Adept? Okay. Well, unfortunately, well, here we go. Nope. At this point, all right, whatever. And this is how walls are broken. Enough of that, and you just give up. Templar Archives on the way, but the double Robo Colossi. Here comes the Roach Hydra timing, though. +1 ranged attack is already done. And +2 is on the way. So many Hydras in production. Showtime needs these Colossi. Extended Thermal Lance is halfway done. That'd be nice to have, but the Colossi themselves. The Coloxin here. Muscular augments, Hydra speed. Very important for Reynor. I think the Colossus. Will he turn around? About to find out. Those Ravagers in an awkward position. He blunks forward. And Reynor willing to fight this out. With no Thermal Lance, the Colossi do have to get uncomfortably close when they prefer social distancing. Now, will Reynor continue the aggression? Oh my god! Yes. 10 Dropper Lords in production. What year is it? Going for the mass Roach Hydra drop. It's not that expensive, but it's quite a... Well, the units inside are going to be pretty expensive. He's just gonna... Is it a fake? I can't tell at this point. It could go either way. Oh my god. No, he's gonna load him up. He's just gonna go for it. Well, away we go. Lurker Den's on the way, as well as the Hive. Reynor is gambling that he can keep Showtime busy enough without losing a critical mass of units. And Showtime is prepared. Okay, he's at the front. His fourth base is locked down. His third base is walled off. He's got all his bases covered. Well, besides Operation Overlord over here. There is one base he's missing. Oh, no. And the massive drop into the main. I'm still not even sure. Well, if he's able to get the +3 attack, or even delayed charge. Meanwhile, at the front, beautiful force fields takes advantage of the misdirection there. And turns it against Reynor. And now the Colossi are on their way up. There are Stalkers here to chase down the Obies. What are you gonna run? What are you gonna go back at the Obies? This seems like a bit of a false start here. Meanwhile, Showtime is burninating his way through the countryside. The Stalkers, yeah, no survivors in the main. Reynor is rebuilding. 15 Hydralisks and 27 Roaches. Roach Hydra in current year. A bold choice. And Viper's on the way as well. So Showtime has held this off with flying colors. And so far, well, Vipers and Lurkers are dangerous, but not particularly deadly. As long as his army is well positioned. Ooh, 2 Colossi. He's got a Warp Prism to potentially micro them. And reinforce. Oh, the Archon. The wall off is the... Oh, Protoss wall offs are a finicky thing. It's not always clear who's being walled off. Showtime doesn't know how much is still in those Overlords. Just a single Hydralisk. But still has those Stalkers on patrol. Not too many. Lurkers on the way. Oh no, the Roaches! He just jumps one of the Colossi. The other one is microed back just in time. But the Lurkers show up unannounced. Oh, and uninvited. Not enough Lurkers, especially without range. The Colossi can outrange them until they get that range upgrade. The Immortals and Archon shouldn't have too much trouble with them, but there's more on the way. Reynor is still maxed out. The Vipers yanks in an Immortal, finishes it off. If I could finish my sentences, that'd be great as well. At Showtime. Oh, yanks down a Colossus. There's still 2. Blinding Cloud forces more forward, but the Lurkers will crumble under the weight of the Protoss army. And now the Roach Hydra looking rather weak at target firing the Hydras with the fire of the extended thermal lances. And Showtime maintains a supply lead while killing 14 drones. Well, that certainly helps. Great Colossus micro, which is hard to do in the scheme of things without getting him too far forward. Just mass Roaches. 10 more Lurkers on the way. Reynor leaning on the Lurkers, but so far they haven't been able to support the weight of the Protoss. More Immortals on the way. The Hydra drops into the main. Is finally taken out. Archon's funneling through. Gotta be careful of a concave of Lurkers. The Roaches. Ooh, Stasis Ward catches him on the way out, creating a bit of an awkward situation. He can't really... He has to wait out the Stasis now, but at least he's removed him from the fight. Everybody wait! Get him out! We don't wait for anyone here. Feedback on the Viper, but Blinding Cloud. Are there enough Lurkers? Enough for now. He's in range to potentially burn the edges of the hatch. Some burnt tips here. Showtime holding. Still looking very strong. And keeping it together. Very important. It's very easy to lose track of your army composition and get picked apart, which we saw in the last game. As Reynor was able to just crisscross his way through the bases. And there's a risk of it happening again. The difference here is Reynor doesn't have enough bases to fall back to. He doesn't have the economy to rebuild. If it's a base trade, it's one he certainly can lose. More Vipers. A handful of charge slots warped in. He would have warped in more, but he's maxed out, which is a bit of a... It's a decent problem to have. Speaking of, 85 probes might be pushing it. The Immortal count is so damn high. as he's looking to punch through, but the blinding cloud means that the Immortals can't get quite as intimate as they'd like to. Speaking of, whoop, surrounded, the roaches will be enough to deal with them here, but this frees up supply for a warp in the main. And that conduit, a warp prism, still, there's nothing to really easily take it out. The Hydras will have to close the distance. Storm is on the way. More of the roaches potentially picked off here. Reynor is on the ropes right now. The Italian stallion must punch back. But Showtime is consolidating his position. The only thing he's really missing is a fleet beacon to really close things out, especially if he wants to wrap up the tech tree. But, oh my god, there are 13 Immortals. And 2 more in production. 15 Immortals. And is that going to be enough to stop the Lurkers? We'll see. 15 Lurkers. Well, one of the Oracles goes down. Templar looking for an opportunity. There, you got an opportunity to die instead. Loses 2. Zealot scouted the base. Awkward stasis. Showtime isn't maxed out. He can warp in if he has the cooldowns. Warp Prism into the main. No Lurkers here, but the Hydras are on the way back. Oracles will come back to defend the center base. So many Immortals. It's beautiful. That Lurker army. And Reynor doesn't really have the economy. There's the fleet beacon. More Stargates. Showtime realizing that that's so many Lurkers that you don't, even with this many Immortals, you don't really want to take the chance. The stasis is pretty decent. I was gonna say huge. It wasn't huge. It wasn't small. It was just okay. Medium-sized stasis. 3 Lurkers. Not a bad take. Though they are the 3 most vulnerable, unfortunately. More storms. Full energy Vipers. The Templar just waiting to get close. But unfortunately, he's slicing in between the bases here. And the Lurkers are mostly unchallenged. Where are those Immortals? Showtime just going for something of a base trade. Any observers? He has the one out in front. And Immortals getting yanked in, but Shield Battery overcharge, keeping them together. Another stasis. Zealots cutting through. The Hydras eventually whittling them down. And it looks like we're actually going into a base trade. Well, Reynor has decided he can't really fight the army. So he's going to try to whittle down the economy and force this into a weird, chaotic situation. Which is probably his best bet. At least until the carriers come out. More Zealots coming back. How many Oracles on the field? Still 2 of them. He uses a Dropper Lord to save some drones, which, you know, is something you can do. Not sure if they're ever going to end up anywhere. Can't even rebuild a hatchery if he loses them all. Showtime. He successfully stalled out the attack. And now he's got a good shot to collapse. I mean, look at the supply. This is Showtime's game to lose. Carriers have arrived. That is a lot of Lurkers. 20 Lurkers. Only 11 Hydralisks. The 2 Vipers are technically a threat. Splits off a few Zealots. Cuts through most of the remaining drones. That Overlord full of drones. He still can't rebuild a hatch. He's at 26. But the carriers pop out. And Showtime, well, he doesn't actually have a lot of income. Oh no, he yanks at a carrier. Oh, he really needs every carrier. All right. Only 2 carriers. There's enough Hydras. They only have +2 attack. Reynor has been varying flavors of all in for most of this game. The Lurkers will hold the front. Are we still base trading? Oh my. Carriers. He could break, you know, he may actually win by elimination. As that is a porcupine of Lurkers right there. Good luck with that. Oh my god. Yeah, he gets rid of the spore that was targeting his observers. going up a ramp in the lurk. He loses the Colossus, a weak spirit. How many buildings are left? Reynor has enough? Like, does he remember the Dropper Lord? With the drones inside. Showtime is rebuilding. He's got it. It's checkmate for Showtime. But he can't know that yet. Though he might start to suspect it. Reynor has not rebuilt his base and is being revealed. There's one more drones are dropping out. Reynor is taking this very seriously. The probes could potentially eliminate Reynor from the game. The lurker, the probes are going for it. The probes, there's only 2. You can't even cancel the extractor at this point. Down goes 1. The probes may end it. It started with probes killing a hatchery. And by God, it will end with probes. Well, maybe not. That lurker's about to kill it. But the idea was there. Vengeance in this game or the next. Okay, Reynor, you're dead. He agrees. Showtime wins. He takes one back, but not the cleanest victory. A bit of an odd set of choices out of Reynor. Showtime acquitting himself well, but it's still going to be an uphill battle, I think, in this series. Reynor clearly has quite a grasp on the matchup, and he let it slip a little there. Threw out the Overlord drops, the Roach Hydra timing. But I would be surprised if that's how he decided to continue. Going to game 4. Site Delta. I did like the Colossi. I love the Immortals. I love the Immortals, so cool. Immortals up there, like one of the coolest units. Like definitely top 5. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I'm not sure top 3, not top 3. Maybe like 4th. I'm not going to list the top 3. But if I was to, it probably wouldn't include Immortals. Maybe. Moving on. Moving on to nothing, apparently. The probe did block in time. Showtime. Everyone building bases on their side of the map this time around. And Site Delta, this is the part where we gotta pick your filler commentary. Do you want me to talk about how Stargate builds are the meta and why again? Do you want to talk about probes flirting with minerals? That's always a fun one. How about PvP and Max Packs? And that's why Max Packs isn't here. How about how Reynor isn't Cero? And that's a sign. You know, I like the probe flirting with the minerals one. So for those who don't know, the reason you do the little probe things with the minerals is because a mineral patch doesn't like to be tied down, all right? It's not the Zerg's minerals. It's not the Protoss's minerals. What happens is when a worker comes up and whispers in the mineral patch's ear and caresses its crystals, it says, "Oh, hello." And then anyone else comes by, whether it be a probe or a drone, in this case a drone, where after the probe laser tongues it. The drone, the mineral patch says to the drone, "I'm taken." But then the drone, which most players will do, will right-click on the mineral patch. No, you're not. He's not really doing it. So the probe teasing the minerals like that will occasionally force drones away from the more lucrative close patches onto other ones. And if you do it perfectly, with great APM, you will deny potentially 10, maybe 20 minerals of mining. And slightly annoy your opponent. But if it goes wrong, you will screw up your entire build. So maybe give it a shot. No, don't try that at home. It's not anything fancier than slightly annoying. Meanwhile, Adept Micro, though, definitely more damaging. And not so much emotionally. Physically. 2 drones down and he gets out. A clean getaway for Showtime. Just what he needs to start things off here. Oracle on the way. I do think the Colossus-based mid-game is the way to go. In most scenarios, especially when your opponent's going Hydras. But I would love to see some more of that. See how far you can stretch it. Of course, the Vipers are quite a dangerous counter. The Adepts are just not having a great time. For once, they will escape the Zerglings, but Reynor has been quite diligent about dealing with them. Oracle slides in. Oh! Check that one off your bingo card. Saves a drone with the transfuse there. Twilight and Forge on the way. Back to basics here for Showtime. He tried his robo build in game 1. It didn't pan out. Back to Blink +1. Yeah, the Adepts keep getting caught. Reynor keeps finding them, but this time, you know, I gotta stop doing that. I gotta stop saying, like, those Adepts are getting caught. That's the second time now that the Oracle was there in time to cover. In the other games, it was true, but Showtime is shoring up his defenses. Oh, that's optimistic. He cancels it. All right. Another Adept Oracle timing. There are 2 sentries on the way. 2 sentries. And he's not building anything out of the Twilight and the Forge. So I think that's about to happen. After he messes around with the Adepts here. Eh. Unfortunate. 2 kills. There's the blink. There's the +1. The sentries, I guess there's something you warp in early. Yeah, makes sense. Usually have enough gas, but you're hurting for minerals because now you got to build up your infrastructure, and that costs minerals. All right, believe it or not. Don't let the deep Protoss state lie to you. Okay, minerals are what make the world go round. Vespene gas is for fancy Protoss only. Charge lots? They don't charge a lot, actually. Believe it or not. So, only 100 minerals for the best unit in the game. Well, this message brought to you by Big Side Blade. 4 kills. Keeping track of things. Those Adepts more important for scouting than really getting the damage done. Kind of trading him out here. Robo. Second Robo. And a Robo Bay. I like it. Just what the Winter ordered. Meanwhile, Zerglings poke in, but enough Stalkers. Alright. Build the wall. Well, he's already got a couple gateways here. Micro-wing. Those oracles. Really solid, like, pinpoint oracle micro looks so good. Manipulating the acceleration. It is quite a finicky thing to make sure those oracles line up. Make sure they are all angled the right way at the right time. But it can make it look like they almost... Oh. We just missed it. The Immortal freaking out. Waiting for the Stalker to move out of the way. Finally, the Stalker inspired with this many Zerglings on the way across the map. We got 2 Colossi in production. And the double Robo, as we saw, opens up an opportunity to go for the Mass Immortal. That's likely, I think, what we'll see a little later on, as Roaches, Zerglings, and Banelings are likely to be the choice. Infestation Pit for Reynor. Baneling speed. +1 Carapace. +2 melee attack. Glial reconstitution. Okay, Roach speed. Glial? Glial? Either way. Roach speed. Meanwhile, Templar Archives, 4th base, Colossus, number 3. Charge and +2 ground weapons for Showtime. As we build up again. But how does it end? No spoilers. Overlord speed is on the way, but I don't think he has any dramatic intentions this time. Hive. More gates. Immortals being added in. No Hydra. Is there Hydra this time? No. Is this a straight up Roach Lingbane Viper? Just a full swarm strat? I think Showtime gonna be well prepared, especially with Storm on the way. Potentially Baneling drops. Yeah, just sending the overlords out there. Once you have speed, it's easy enough. Yeah, Storm being chrono boosted. 28 Banelings in production. Yeah, that hive is nearly complete. A bunch of spine crawlers on the way as Reynor tries to set up his defenses. So that way he can deal with any counterattacks without wasting too much supply on defense. Yeah, quite a tense, Cold War here. Oh my. The mid-game, as both players neglected or declined to do any sort of real aggression outside of like poking and prodding with the oracles. Ultralisk Cavern. Is he really gonna go for this? He's gonna make Immortals look good, but the full swarm. Wow. Ultralisk always a finicky creature in general, but especially against Protoss. Maybe find more success than against the Terran Ghosts, but Immortals are already built into Showtime's army. And he's ready to use them. He's got 4 Colossi alongside everything. A shield upgrade before +3 ground weapons. Interesting. A few charge lots, spine crawlers, a backbone of the defense, but a weak one at that. He's gonna need some Zerglings to help deal with it. Adrenal Gland's not quite done, and the Zealots hold the line. Ravagers, Lings, Banelings, oh my, where's the Storm? Stasis, beautiful! The most reliable force field of them all! Showtime! Lines it up perfectly, though you do have to be very careful because when those Banes come out of stasis, they are dangerous. Alright, Blinding Cloud. Oh, the Blinding Cloud is a beautiful choice. Doesn't go for the Abducts. He actually decides to fight forward. The stasis runs out. The Banelings roll in. They don't find anything. Merges the Archons before they can be threatened. Reynor with 104 Zerglings in production. What? Which is a bold choice against a mass Colossus army composition. Does he still have the Vipers? 2 Vipers intact. He's consuming his own hatchery there. Gambling probably that Showtime is not going to press any further forward. But Showtime, the clear victor, I think, in that fight. But Showtime also... Oh, that one Stalker! That one Stalker against 100 Zerglings. And quite efficient indeed. The Blinding Clouds, though, making a huge difference. Able to attack at melee range, but the Colossi looking back and forth, deflecting Zerglings, making things more difficult. Corrosive Vials thrown up, it knocks down the Prism. The Protoss army starting to crumble. The Ultralists show up to the party, but will get roasted immediately. Oracles participating in the fight, and that was less of a resounding victory and more of about even. If Showtime is able to get home. Let's take a look overall. Showtime has destroyed 5,000 more minerals. This is including both battles, but lost 1,500 more gas. He lost 3 Colossi, 8 Archons. Meanwhile, Reynor lost an Ultra, 170 Zerglings, 66 Banelings. So quite a spread there. Ultra speed is now done. Finally. Feels like these two have warmed up. Showtime was unable to really find his footing. Even that last game, I think, was a bit dicey. Well, the Ultras are a known quantity. They're dangerous. They're deadly. But you can deal with them pretty directly. The Immortals are the choice. And just plenty of units to keep them at bay. He's got 6 Immortals yet again. Oh, all I heard were Immortals blasting. There's charge lots boxed out by the Ultras. Infestors and Neural Parasite. Neural Parasite could be absolutely devastating. But Showtime is very diligent about bringing detection. Even though there are no lurkers, he has an observer, he's got oracles with the army. He's very good about that. But it only takes a few seconds. Reynor running his drones here. The Immortal's on the way. Oh, the Archon. Easy pickings. Gonna slaughter another dozen drones or so. Having fun with it. Reynor splits the drone. There's some dangerous spellcasters in there. Neural Parasite is done. He grabs an Immortal. A pretty good counter to Immortals. The blinding clouds, they can't see anything. And the Ultras thrive in their blindness. The Ultras are just chewing it apart. The Immortals bashed through each other. And even though he could see them, he couldn't really stop them. Between the Immortals and the Ultras, just obliterating the army. Desperation, Archons, a fleet beacon. I don't think Showtime might not have been confident in beating the army. That certainly is not how he saw that one going. God, the Ultras just chewing through with the Immortals mostly removed from the fight. And Archon turned as well. The Oracle's doing what they can, but assimilation is successful. And borrowing some of the Protoss to assist the Zerg seems to have been a deadly choice. Showtime retreats behind his mineral line. Bunch of the Overlords coming across the map. And the Ultra's getting bottled up behind. You know, well, I don't know why the Overlords are here. He's trying to... Brenda, what are you doing? Susan? Lucille? Karen? What? Why are you here? We're here for the victory lap. No, we're still fighting. He's transfusing the Ultras with the Queens. Oh my God. Oh. And that actually will keep the fight going. And it may have made the difference. The Ultras were starting to fall apart. But with creep on Showtime's base, he's still jammed behind the mineral lines. Ultras are still terrestrially challenged here. They need space to work, and Showtime not really giving him it. The fight will continue. Another Immortal gets caught and ripped apart. Oh my God, is flung away. And it feels like Showtime is one misstep away from disaster. Well, that was a while ago, but the Oracles are lit up again. They have enough energy. The only spellcasters are Queens, but the Immortals hold the line. We'll put their names to the test. And the Queens are not enough anti-air here. I think for the Oracle, a Templar shows up. The Immortals are being rallied in. Another Ultra dies. Oh, but somehow Showtime holds. And he has more workers. Wow. Well, it's still a very... And those Vipers. A blinding cloud in that back corner. There are only 2 Ultras. This is the scenario. Ultras thrive on these kind of scrappy scenarios. It's when we get to the set-piece armies where they have all the damage they need to just target them down. But here, Reynor's making it work. His economy is kind of mediocre. But he finds... Oh my God, I don't think he knew about this base. Otherwise, I would have been dead a while ago. Yeah, this base, the lifeline for Showtime. There's no creep here. The Queens are not going to be able to transfuse. Showtime decides to pick a fight while he still can. The Oracles, one of them gets shot down by the Queens. Not the scenario we're used to seeing it. But the Immortals looking for some target fire. The Queens are piling in. Oh my God, the Ultras chewing things up. Absolutely beautiful. But Showtime turns it around. Oh my God. Showtime holding on. It's so close. But his economy, trying to keep it together. The War Prism, the Immortals. The Immortal target, he needs that last one. The Zerglings are still so dangerous. He blinks over the top, but there's no more. That one immortal in the prism is the only thing he has left. If he was able to get anything against Reynor on the other side. Ultras. Showtime starting to run out of steam here. If he loses another Nexus, his probe count is decent, but he's running out of mineral patches to mine from the Zerg. He's just right click on the Nexus. It's gone. The Ultras are still right outside the door. And GG in a hard-fought game. A tough series for Showtime. He played so well. But Reynor found the right fights at the right time. After 16 Immortals, 19 Archons, 21 Ultralisks. Some of the most resources I've ever seen lost in this matchup in less than 20 minutes. But the epic conclusion will result in Reynor with a 3-1 victory. I feel like we were denied a 5th game. Those two were just warming up. But Reynor, decisive victory, despite Showtime's valiant effort. And a fun series. Definitely ramped up at the end. I hope you enjoyed. And if you made it this far, be awesome. If you could like, subscribe. And if you have the means of motivation, check out Patreon, YouTube, all that. Either way, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill.